everybody.
Hi, friends. Well, from beautiful Salt Lake City, Utah.
It's Thank God I'm Atheist.
The podcast.
I'm Frank Feldman.
And I'm Dan Beecher.
And coming up on the show today, Dan, Mike Johnson is, he's a gift.
Is a shitbag. Is that what you're going to say?
Keeps on giving, Dan, as more and more details come out about this guy. We're going to be getting into his porn tracker that he's used.
I hope we're not actually getting into it. I don't want to. I
want to know nothing about what that man is into.
Yeah.
But his 17-year-old son knows what he's into, so that's cool. Because he's the one who's manning the other side of the tracker. So isn't that cool?
And appropriate, and very, very appropriate.
Yeah, so
everything's going very well.
We'll get into what Covenant Eyes is. That's the name of the tracker, and what it's tracking, and how sick the whole thing is. But first, we have some news to talk about, stuff that happened this week.
A new or two.
And this is breaking news here from Utah, Dan.
Oh my, I've been there.
So as you know, Dan, it gets cold here in the winter, right? And as you are probably also aware, we have a large homeless population.
We do.
As many cities and areas of the United States have currently. And
we allow that for some reason.
Yeah.
That's okay with us for some reason. I'm not sure why, but
totally bizarre. But every winter we get concerned that maybe the unhoused might be a little cold. Right. And with good reason, because it gets freezing.
Concerned enough to do something?
Concerned enough just for winter to do something about it. And up here in Salt Lake, we've been addressing this issue for quite some time. But Utah County, Dan, that's where Provo is, and that's where BYU is, Brigham Young University.
It's very Mormon, much Mormoner than Salt Lake.
Super duper duper Mormon. It's a county with about 700,000 people. And for the very first time, they are actually going to be officially operating warming centers for the unhoused.
Oh, good. Not housing.
No.
Let's not get crazy here.
Let's not actually solve any problems aside from, it is nice to know that there is a line, and freezing to death apparently is that line.
No, that's not the line. The line is Mormons feeling bad because they have to see someone who's freezing.
Well, if that were the case, Dan, this story wouldn't read exactly the way that it does, which is,
okay.
They are going to be using churches as the sheltering places. However, the Mormon Church is not involved. The Mormon Church has refused to let their facilities be used as warming centers. And instead, it's the Provo Adventist Community Center, the Genesis Project Church, and Provo Community Church that have all agreed to pitch in, offer their gyms, right, as a place to keep warm. They will be stocked with cots and blankets and snacks. Not like this isn't for like full-on meals. They'll be open between the hours of 9 p.m. and 8 a.m. And at which point anybody who stayed the night there will be provided with a bus token that they can
please leave.
Well, there's a sort of a food facility where people can go get meals that they recommend that they go to because then now they've survived the cold night. Now go get some food. Or they can use it for whatever. And this is an actual real phenomenon out there, people. If you're not aware of this, they can also take the bus to go to work, because that is the
Yeah.
state of things in the United States, where
Yeah, you can
can
be
be
employed and be like working hard.
yeah,
And also
Yeah.
experience homelessness.
Yeah.
Which I think is fun.
Yeah.
It's just a fun little treat that we do
Yep.
here.
yeah. And so, I mean, the thing, we said it, Utah County is very Mormon. It is very, 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 very Mormon, right?
I can think of at least 2 places in Utah County where there is a Mormon church less than a block from another Mormon church.
I drove past 2 that were like next door to each other.
They're right there.
Like,
Literally,
Yeah.
they have more meeting houses than they know what to do with.
yeah,
But I'll tell you what they know not to do, and that is help people who need help.
yeah.
Way more than anybody. Like those, and by the way, those meeting houses are kept warm all day, every day.
Yeah, that's probably true, right? And the Mormon Church is going to be pitching in with they're going to be providing some funds. The Lord knows they have plenty of it. To like help supply things like cots and toiletries and cleaning products and whatnot.
Oh, those saints, those angels.
I know. I don't know how true this is, but last night we were kind of talking about this with some friends, and they said that the church had in the past up here in Salt Lake County allowed their facilities to be used as warming centers, but that they had heard that they had like pulled that. That like
they learned their lesson.
They totally learned their lesson, and so they're not involved with that kind of charity anymore. They are just sorry, guys.
I mean, it's not like
I mean,
it's not like there's a mandate somehow, some sort of mandate from some important figure in the religion that says that the most important thing they could possibly do is to take care of the people who are in need.
And honest to God, like if they didn't want their churches, their actual facilities used as, for worship and whatnot, to be used as warming centers, Lord knows they've got the money. They could just build it and
Just
staff
build
it.
a whole bunch of them.
Yeah. They could just do it. They could build the houses needed to solve homelessness, probably not just in Utah, but probably the whole country.
Imagine the PR value of that. Oh, they could do the whole country, no problem.
What's the
They
sum?
could do it
100 billion? Is that what it is?
more than that.
Oh,
They could do the whole country and like sort of laugh it off.
yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, fuck the Mormons. Here's another one. We're just gonna stick with
good.
Mormons, but
Okay,
we are
good.
gonna go south of Utah's border down to Arizona, where you and I have reported on this case.
Mm.
The case of Paul Adams, who horrifically, and trigger warning, this is going to involve sexual abuse of children, so you can fast forward if you need to. Paul Adams sexually abused his kids, his daughter, and he reported it to his Mormon bishop in whatever the Mormon version of confession is, because they don't have an official confession, but you are supposed to go and tell your bishop your sins or whatever. So I guess it's confession. Anyway, the kid, he's now, he was charged criminally and whatever, eventually, years after the fact. So these kids were abused for decades.
Yeah.
And the church did nothing.
Yeah, it's a really disgusting story.
So the kids sued the church.
Yeah.
And an Arizona judge has dismissed the case completely. They literally summary judgment, full dismissing, because, and this is probably true, because it was confessed within the confines of a confession to a priest, to a clergy person.
Yeah.
That is an exception in the mandatory reporting laws in Arizona. And so the church, And the church, of course, crowed about it. They basically said that they were very pleased with this outcome, and that they're very happy to know that they acted within the in a manner consistent with Arizona law, which is like, yes, maybe you were consistent with Arizona law, and completely inconsistent with any form of morality or ethics that could possibly exist.
Yeah. Well, this story involved their hotline, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, it did bring to light the fact that the bishop would have called the Mormon hotline. This isn't a hotline for victims,
right? No, because the person who picks up is a lawyer. It's not somebody. It's not like somebody who's trained in social work or whatnot. Who's like, oh gosh, yeah.
It's not someone who's like, how do we protect a victim?
Right. It goes to a lawyer who's like, how do we protect the church? How do we protect the organization?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. It is. Yeah.
It looks like it worked, Dan.
And it worked. Yeah. They knew what they were doing. Their law firm, Kirkland McConkie, is going strong, keeping the church protected and doing its job. So congratulations to the Mormon Church. Once again, 2 stories in a row where you complied with law and turned out to be total shitbags.
Yeah. God, it's awful. Oh shit, Dan. Yeah. All right. Well, here's one that this is an amazing story because it's both wildly good news and horribly depressing at the same time.
Well, that's fun.
Which is
the thing that you're about to do to us.
The United States has passed a benchmark of sorts. A very exciting one, which is it's about the level of acceptance of evolution as sort of a scientific fact, right? That this is how the human beings. Let's see. Quote. Where was it? Human beings, as we know them today, developed from earlier species of animals. That was the question that was asked, or you were asked to say whether you agreed with it or not.
To weigh in on that, because weighing in is the thing that people should do.
Yeah, that they've been doing since 1985, I believe. Nonetheless, and we've a wonderful, wonderful benchmark, Dan.
Okay.
Finally, more than half of Americans believe in evolution.
Oh my God, we did it! We did it, everybody! Congratulations!
I was like, "Oh, great! That's horrifying." This article, let's see. It says from 1985 to 2010, there was a statistical dead heat. The article says between acceptance and rejection of evolution. But let's see. After 2010. Acceptance of evolution has surged and has become the majority position since 2016 at 52% of respondents who accept evolution. 36 reject it. The scientific community's level acceptance of evolution is 98%.
Good thing it's not 100. Then that would be confusing to all the people.
Yeah. And like I said, the statement was human beings, as we know them today, developed from earlier species of animals. And people were asked whether they accepted, rejected, or didn't know, or weren't sure.
I want to know how many people say that they didn't know, because I got to say, I find that to be a far more acceptable position.
I guess it would be, if you add up accepted and rejected, you get 88%. So 12% of the population is
12 is way too high. 12
is just I don't know.
You guys keep arguing about it, and I didn't pay attention in science, so it doesn't seem like we can know.
And the article kind delves into the question of like, what happened? Why 2010?
Sure.
Why these last 13 years have we seen this strong movement upward in these numbers? So one of the things that they feel is the strongest factor is obviously a person's level of education.
Sure.
And the proportion of Americans with a college degree basically doubled between 1988 and 2018.
Oh, wow.
There's also, and this is a really interesting one, and it has to do with the education of our high school biology teachers and middle school science teachers, which is both of those groups were more likely to teach evolution as a matter of scientific consensus if they had studied evolution themselves at the college level.
Right.
Which makes total sense, right? That's not surprising. But when you think about sort of maybe some lag time that has existed in the education system, where you had older teachers who were still out there teaching or unsure about it, presenting
the
it
controversy.
Yeah, exactly. And that's probably, that number of teachers has obviously gone down. And then let's see, they kind of broke the numbers down by political lines, which is interesting. In, let's see, 2009, 54% of Republicans and 64% of Democrats accepted human evolution. And however, in 2019, so 10 years later, 34% of conservative Republicans accepted evolution compared to 83% of liberal Democrats.
So wait, I'm sorry, I missed it. Did that go?
That went the right direction. Yeah.
So on both ends of it?
It went, no. The Republicans dropped from in the 50s down into the 30s, and Democrats went in the 60s up into the 80s.
And do you want to know why? Because they literally just have to be against whatever the Democrats are for.
Yeah, I mean, it also has to do with the fact that Republicans are more religious. I mean,
and homeschooling their kids.
Yeah, and all that kind of stuff. Well, they ask the sort of the normal questions about attendance at religious services in a typical week. How often do you pray? Those kind of things. Also, they ask them to agree, disagree, whatever, with the statement, we depend too much on science and not enough on faith, in order to sort of parse out and find and try to figure out who was religiously sort of a religious fundamentalist, right? In this.
Who was fucking us the most?
In 2019, only 32% of those who scored the highest on the scale of religious fundamentalism accepted evolution, as opposed to 54% of the whole sample and 91% of those who scored the lowest on the scale. But they're saying, but that number has actually, that 32%, that's a big increase. 1988, only 8% of religious fundamentalists accepted evolution.
Right.
So the evolution acceptance is on the rise in almost every group except for Republicans for some reason.
Shocking. We're all shocked by this.
So yeah, and they actually, of course, they're optimistic about the future, as this was from a scientific organization that looked into this. So of course they're excited about these numbers, but they think there's good reason to believe that these numbers will continue to go up. So that's really good. America is making significant strides, hopefully, but probably not in time, to save the country and maybe
hopefully
and the world.
Listen. By the 300th anniversary of the origin of the species being released, we'll be in the 60% believer range.
When is that? Is that coming up soon?
No, it's hundreds of years. I don't know. I mean, that came out.
Origin of the species,
like somewhere in the 1800s, mid 1800s.
Okay, yeah. So okay, origin of species. Oh,
And
1859.
yes, pedants, we know that it's on the origin of species. Just it's shorthand.
1859. So
Okay.
coming up on the 200th.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So by the 300th, I think we should be good.
Okay.
Is
Oh, there
where
you
I'm
go.
at.
Okay.
All right. So I'm going to take us now to India,
Oh, good.
where, because our country is not the only country that's being run by insane nationalists, religious nationalists. But their brand is fun because their brand is Hindu nationalism under the direction of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. And it's just as shitty as Christian nationalism, but it's different. It looks different. One of the things that they're doing, so as you may or may not know, if you know anything about recent Indian history, and I mean in the past few years, you may know that in 2019, Modi's government in New Delhi the area of Kashmir has long been a disputed area, with both Pakistan and India sort of claiming it.
Well, they want the sweaters. The sweaters are epic.
They are. Those goats, man. Anyway, the Kashmiris have sort of operated in this semi-autonomous way under the sort of umbrella of India. But they are largely not Hindu. They are largely Muslim. Well, that doesn't work. So Modi basically took away their semi-autonomy and sort of, they stopped doing things like civil liberties and, freedom of the press, that sort of thing. Largely,
Who needs that?
They really cut that back. It was getting annoying, I think, is the problem. Anyway, a new problem has cropped up in the Kashmir region, which is that the Muslims there would like to show their solidarity with the Muslims of Gaza.
Okay.
No. The answer is no. You are not allowed, says Modi and his government. They have decided to ban all protests in support of the Palestinians.
That's interesting.
And basically, and they've asked the imams of Kashmir not to discuss it over the pulpit.
Please do not discuss this.
So things are going great there too.
Wow.
Things are going real good. The natural freedoms that should be enjoyed by everyone are being curbed in the way that only nationalism, religious nationalism, can do well.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I would like to know more about that situation. That's
Hindu nationalism.
No,
in India.
Yeah, just know the banning of why they're concerned about support for Palestinians.
Well, basically, anytime anybody protests in Kashmir, it reflects, of course, on New Delhi. It reflects on Modi's things, and they don't want anything that could turn into, also, So if you start with we support, the Palestinians, and then somebody gets up in front of a microphone and says, "Oh, and also, probably Modi should stop fucking shitting on us," and
it's losing control of the. Okay, I get it. Yeah. All right.
So
okay,
fun stuff.
So much fun. All right, Dan. The Catholic Church, Dan.
I don't like it.
Yeah, I know, but they're coming out with something that is befuddling.
Okay.
This last week, the Vatican's doctrinal office, in response to some questions from a Brazilian bishop, issued some guidance about the roles that transgender people can play in the Catholic Church. For example, they've declared that transgender people can be godparents at Roman Catholic baptisms. They can be witnesses at religious weddings, and they can receive baptism themselves.
Really?
Yes. So this was questions posed by Bishop Jose Negri of Santo Amaro. He sent in 6 questions back in July, all about LGBT people and their participation in the sacraments of baptism and matrimony. 3 pages of the questions and answers were posted to the department's website this last Wednesday. Not getting everything quite right as far as like the language that they were using to talk about the people that they were talking about. But the sentiment is actually very interesting. Pope Francis, of course, has been trying to make the church more welcoming of the LGBT community. At least he says he is.
He does talk about that sometimes.
It is interesting that he talks about it, but he hasn't really changed any churches like teachings or whatnot. But the sense of it that I'm getting from this article is that basically because the church has sort of been historically maybe hasn't had a lot to say about transgender people and the roles that they could take in the church. There was nothing saying that they couldn't. And that's right. Because the questions about gay people were far less sort of kind and accepting than the ones about the transgender people. Which is really interesting. Let's see.
Which brings up a whole lot of problems, because if they find ways of accepting trans people, and then those trans people, for instance, who have been, if a trans person gets baptized into the Catholic Church, and let's say it's a trans man who is baptized, and then that trans man wants to marry a woman. What does the Catholic Church have to say about that?
I know. They're obviously starting to wade into some areas that could get complicated for them, right?
Yeah.
They're going to make it complicated.
Right. It's super easy for us. Like the answers these are the easiest answers in the world. But because they have taken absurd positions on things
and can't figure out how to walk them back.
No.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
But of course, it's not a perfect set of statements, right? In response to questions about whether trans people can be baptized, the doctrinal office said they could with some conditions, as long as there is, quote, no risk of causing a public scandal or disorientation among the faithful.
So then no, the answer is no.
Yeah, also this one. It also says that transgender people could be godparents at a baptism at the discretion of the local priest, as well as a witness at a church wedding. But the local priest could exercise pastoral prudence in his decision.
Yeah.
There it is.
I mean, and also this is a pope really trying desperately to have cake and eat it, where it's like, yes, we want to be very accepting, but also there are some priests who hate that, and so that priest doesn't have to.
Right.
But everybody, but it's okay. But keep it quiet because we don't want to cause a stir.
Yeah. Oh yeah. They're trying to thread a needle here. Them. That is without just be quiet. Yeah. It'd be nice if they just came out and just said, we recognize everyone is God's children. Right. And we welcome them all and with open arms, and anyone who stands in the way of that is standing against the Vatican, right?
Yeah.
They could just come out and sort of fully give their support. Apparently, back in July, Francis met with some members of the trans community, and he told one person in attendance, even if we are sinners, he, meaning God, draws near to help us. The Lord loves us as we are. This is God's crazy love.
Great.
His crazy love.
Thank you so much for that. We really appreciate that a lot.
Let's see. The document said that a person in a same-sex relationship could also be a witness in a Catholic wedding, citing...
Oh, a gay person
person can, citing current church canonical legislation, which contained no prohibition against it. See, This is that thing where it's like, because we haven't actually said no in the past, we're going to come out and say, yeah. That's the only reason. So they're not going through and revising anything. They're not willing to go back and like change anything, right?
Right.
They're just sort of saying, well, it doesn't say you can't.
Right. We don't see specific reasons why no. Especially since and this goes back to, and we're going to have to talk about this during the the listener feedback, but
sure.
But this goes back to the thing last week where you and I could not understand why it was, what was it, a liturgical horror for a kid to help with the, with eating the crackers,
right?
With cracker distribution,
right?
And now it's like, oh my, gay people can literally use their eyes and witness a thing.
I guess there was also a question about whether a child of a same-sex couple could be baptized.
Oh my
God!
And
the apparently they can be, as long as there is, quote, a well-founded hope that it could be educated in the Catholic religion. Like I'm sure that's their stance with every child that's being baptized, is that, well, we assume, but they feel like they have to, like, they're...
You don't have to say anything. Say it.
You don't
just
have to
say yes.
Because if that's already what you expect, then yes, right?
Learn from the Mormons' mistake. Just say you can do it. It's so dumb. You guys are so dumb. Everyone is dumb. All right. Speaking of dumb, here's a story. Okay, we've talked about Sean Feucht. I refuse to pronounce his name any differently than that. He's a evangelical, MAGA loving, COVID denying mega star. He's a Christian singer. He's a musician. Anyway, tragedy struck recently when Feucht's Honda Pilot was robbed. It might have been a rental, I don't know. But his guitar, the window was smashed and his guitar was stolen from the back of his car. Which was very sad. He talked about it on Twitter.
Nobody wants that to happen.
And then, lo and behold, well, I'll tell the story from his point of view. As sort of Twitter, he presented it on Twitter. So one day, the car was broken into. The 67 Gallagher guitar, which was a gift from another shitbag pastor, was stolen. Then this is a tweet. It's a Sunday miracle. I got my guitar back.
Oh, wow.
It was turned in this morning after being stolen from my car 5 days ago. Thank you for praying. We're going to celebrate. He says, it was traded in for dope and then wound up in a pawn shop, and my buddy brought it back for me.
Yeah, your prayers really helped with that, I'm sure.
Yeah, and then the guy who stole the guitar, they agreed, well, according to Sean, he was wrecked by God's love. which doesn't sound good.
Wow.
And then, but his friend was doing street ministry.
God wrecked.
Found the guy who stole the guitar somehow,
Yeah.
and then showed him a bunch of videos, and then they invited him to a concert.
Oh, wow.
And they brought him up on stage, and then glory, he gave his life to Jesus and was baptized.
Because God wrecked him.
Isn't that a beautiful story? And isn't it wildly suspicious and probably not true? Yes, it is wildly suspicious and probably not true. Okay, so look, as I was reading the story, I was already very suspicious. I was suspicious that the whole thing was made up. Apparently not. Apparently this guy actually did break into his car and steal his guitar. But apparently Foicht's friend does ministry with unhoused people this is in the Seattle, Tacoma, I don't know, some in the area sort of in that region. I don't have it right in front of me. Anyway, knew where to go and look, found the guy, gave the guy $100 or something for the guitar, which he would have gotten more from a pawn shop, and the dude was kind of caught.
Right.
So no, literally the guitar never made it to a pawn shop. That was a lie.
What?
They found the guy. They dragged him up on stage, put a bunch of pressure on him. He did not want to be on stage. He knew he was being used as just a prop.
God.
But they said, "Hey, come to the concert." He came to the concert, and then they drag him up on stage. And then they pressured the fuck out of him to get baptized, which he did not want to do, which he initially refused, but they put so much pressure on that he didn't feel like he could refuse.
Good God.
When a reporter tracked him down and said, "Hey, are you a Christian?" He was like, definitely not. Definitely not. But yes, they did use him very much as a prop.
Oh, that's ugly.
And they literally lied their asses off about what happened with this guy.
That's so ugly.
So,
I'm just like,
what kind of a world do we live in when we can't trust the pastors to tell the truth about heartwarming stories? It's shocking. I'm sure all of our listeners are just blown away.
Yeah, we never lived in that world, Dan.
No, Mormon leaders never twice a year make up faith promoting stories that are absolutely not true. with no, at least they don't drag people up as props, but they always tell stories that aren't true and that are just so suspiciously vague every single time. Anyway, if you would like to tell us your story of a faith leader obviously lying, please feel free to write into us about that or any of the things that we've talked about today. Podcast at thankgodimatheist.com.
Or call and leave us a voicemail message. We'd love to hear from you. The telephone number is 424-666-8442. Stick around. There is more show coming up.
Well, Frank,
Dan,
we have some folks write into us and call into us.
We did.
So I'll start us off.
Okay.
This is it's signed Cheers from Fortaleza, Brazil. I don't know how to actually pronounce that, so that's as close as I'm going to get. Hello, TGIA. First time emailer here. Literally just to say that I was raised Catholic and I still have not a single clue what the hell the liturgical horror was in the whole news item with the Italian altar girl. No fucking idea. I do kind of want to watch a horror movie with liturgical horror in its genre tags, though. I think that's brilliant. Liturgical horror should be its own genre. I think it is its own genre.
Yeah.
I think that, I mean, what do you think the Exorcist movies are?
He's not supposed to touch the Eucharist.
Wait a minute. He said we instead of I baptize you. How long have you been doing that? Nobody's baptized. Oh no!
The liturgical horror.
The horror. The horror.
Oh, well, Dan, we got a voicemail from somebody who was fairly well informed. It sounds like.
All right.
At least it sounded good to me.
Who can explain the liturgical
explains what was going on? And
are you saying, Frank, that we did not vigorously fact check this voicemail?
Let's play it with that sort of caveat that it could be wrong. Who knows?
But it sounds legit, so we're going with it.
There we go.
Hey guys, my name's Michael. I'm a longtime listener. I'm a former Catholic, and I wanted to give you some information about what extraordinary ministers of the Eucharist are. We just used to call them Eucharistic ministers when I was a kid, but you are right in that they are basically just helpers who stand up and help distribute communion at Mass. So if you don't know too much about a Catholic Mass, at the point in the Mass where they hand out communion, it's the wafers and wine, and there are usually two separate stations that you go to receive those. And if there are a lot of people in the Mass, it's not just the priest. Prior to Vatican II, it was only the priest who could handle communion. So if a church had two priests, usually there's a pastor and a parochial vicar. Those are the technical terms for them. They would assist each other during the Mass and hand out the communion as they could, and didn't have helpers. And for the most part, they didn't even use their hands. They would use a tiny little silver spoon that they would dip into a chalice holding all of the they weren't wafers at that point, they were bread cubes. And they would literally fling it into your mouth. If you were too tall for the priest, you had to squat down a little bit so that you could angle your mouth right and catch the communion as it came into your mouth. But since Vatican II, parishioners have been able to assist by handing out communion. The basic requirements are pretty simple. You have to be an active Catholic in the church. You have to have received a certain number of sacraments. I believe it's communion, confirmation, and something else that I'm forgetting. Baptism, of course. And I think you had to be at least 18. So the reason that this might have been scandalous is probably because she might not have been 18, and also Italy is currently going through a real conservative wave at the moment, and having girls or women serve in Mass is probably more controversial now than it has been in the past, because the conservatives are probably emboldened by that. But yeah, that's the general assessment that I think I can give you on that. So that's the basics of it. Thanks for listening.
Catholic nerd.
I mean,
Thanks,
he started throwing around Vatican II, and I'm like, oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, this is legit. This is the answer right here.
She's too young to give you a cracker.
Oh, the horror!
Can I just say, they need to get much more hygienic practices when it comes to their Eucharist, their whatever.
Yeah, it is a little germy, isn't it?
Yeah. It's downright gross. I mean, when you watch it, it's funny because everybody's drinking out of the same chalice thing, and they wipe it. Oh, and they keep wiping it with exactly the same towel. They just keep smearing with the germ towel. I'm not even a germaphobe, but it kind of, you get 100 people and it's like, okay, we maybe this is a bit too far. Somebody's got a cold sore.
Well, we grew up with little cups. We got little cups of water because the Mormons don't drink the wine.
Yeah.
And it was all very sanitary, except for the 16-year-olds up there preparing the whole thing. You knew.
Well, up there breaking bread by literally just getting their grubby mitts on it.
Yeah. And they used a little wipey before. We would have a little.
I was scrupulous about washing my hands prior to.
I'm sure. I'm sure.
I don't think everybody else was.
Gross. So gross.
Oh, Lord. All right. This is from Alex in Calgary, Canada. Hi, guys. I work at a liquor store in Canada and have all sorts of interesting conversations with customers. The other day, while a young guy was waiting for his friend to return with his ID, we got chatting. I asked if after university he wanted to stay in town or move elsewhere. He said he wanted to move to Dubai. Which, rah, I'm all for exploring the world and seeing new places. So I asked what drew him there. He said, they have religion over everything. It's much more cohesive, and there are too many atheists in Canada nowadays.
Ooh.
Should I have said, oh, I'm actually an atheist? Or did I do the right thing in just saying, interesting, your buddy is coming back with his ID? I don't hide my atheism, but I'm not sure work is the right place to inject it into the conversation, even if it comes up. At the same time, there are plenty of Christians, Muslims, Sikhs, and otherwise who are very clear about their religiosity, sometimes with clothing that makes it obvious. Yeah, that's a dumb... Boy, that's crazy that someone would go to Dubai for the religiosity, especially since Dubai itself is meant to be sort of a haven from that. Like the rest of the country, of the United Arab Emirates, is pretty darn religious. But Dubai is supposed to be one of those places where it's like, we suspend all of that. You can get booze here, blah, blah, blah.
Sure, yeah. No, but I mean,
or at least that was my understanding.
It's still in charge. Guess who's in charge, right? Like,
oh yeah.
Yeah, that's bizarre. But as far as like the question of like how to answer, especially in that context, yeah, I guess it's a little tricky.
Yeah.
But yeah, it feels like the kind of moment where you just want to drop it, right? Like, oh,
yeah,
well,
what you don't. I mean, the truth is, if you're not up for a very rousing and very annoying conversation,
right,
you did the right thing.
Right.
You absolutely, like, literally changing the subject is the best thing you can do.
Right.
If, on the other hand, you're up for being berated by someone who's obviously too stupid to know any better, if you want to see what they have to say, if you're curious, I would suggest that the correct answer would be, oh, good. Yeah, because I'm atheist and it's so much better without you guys.
Right. But in the position of like working in a store, right, you can't say that. You can't do that. And also like the moment that you even just like brought it up, even like, oh, well, I'm atheist but that's interesting. Right. Like the moment that you do that, if this person wants to like get into it, you can't. Right. Yeah. Like you're just in a position where it's like, it's just a lousy time and moment to like get into anything like that. So I think you probably handled it correctly. Yeah. It's unfortunate. You want to be able to get into it, but like it's not the context for it. It's just not the place.
I'll tell you what you don't do.
What?
That guy, you definitely don't try to talk them out of it.
Right. You let him go.
Off you go.
It's better for Canada, right? And
it's better for Canada.
And by the sound of things,
it's probably better for that person. They may have some interesting lessons ahead of them, but
right. Yeah, one less crazy in Alberta. Hey, that's a win.
Awesome.
Yeah.
What you probably should have done is encouraged them to take all their friends. Oh man, you should probably get as many people as you can on board with this plan. It sounds brilliant. Yeah. Sounds like exactly what you need.
Good stuff.
Yeah. All right. Well, you know what we didn't do?
What's that, Dan?
We didn't do our audio.
How weird.
Oh, it's like we don't know how to do our own show.
Well, let's play some audio and then we'll get to our patrons.
Okay, we'll do the audio now. This is Jason Rapert. Now, you may remember Rapert as being a former state legislator who was who was famous. I think it's Arkansas that he was a state legislator in, and he was the guy that was like so proud of getting the 10 Commandments out on the lawn and everything.
Sure.
He is speaking at some event. I don't even know what the event is, but he is going to prove, there's nothing more enticing to these Christian nationalists than the idea that our country, the United States of America, the non-democratic republic of the United States of America, was founded on Christian principles. And any quote that they can find from a quote unquote founding father that might support that is used as an absolute proof text. So this is Jason Rapert quoting Patrick Henry.
Oh, good.
Patrick Henry, one of the founding fathers. Let's see if you can spot a problem with this.
Okay.
I could go on and on and on. I got just enough time to tell you what Patrick Henry said. It cannot be emphasized too clearly and too often that this nation was founded not by religionists, but by Christians, not on religion, but on the gospel of Jesus Christ. Patrick Henry, give me liberty or give me death. He says we were founded on the gospel of Jesus Christ. If you think Patrick Henry is some dangerous Christian nationalist, which is a false term, which is idiocy, you just keep trying to spin it because it's not going to stick.
All right, there it was. Good old Brother Rapert. The only problem that I can see with it, like, it's a pretty strong quote on their side.
Sure.
And frankly, the only problem with it is that obviously Patrick Henry never said that.
Dan, come on.
Patrick Henry absolutely did not say that. That comes from a book that quotes Patrick Henry, but that's not one of the quotes from Patrick Henry in that book. That is just from the author of the book.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
And apparently he got that from, what's his name? Oh, another ding-dong Republican. Josh Hawley.
Oh,
you know Josh
yeah,
Hawley.
Of course.
Yeah. He was the one that apparently tweeted that quote out.
Great.
And now it's being disseminated. And then when he was called to account and said, told, no, that's not a Patrick Henry quote. He of course didn't retract it and say, my bad, obviously that's not true, I will take down the post. he just was like,
right. Well, it just also goes to sort of my reaction to like quotes from, the founders about almost anything. It's just, I don't care.
So
like,
what?
They're dead. We have to live in this country. Right?
Yeah.
So why don't we make rules for ourselves? Which, by the way, is what they did. And so,
and what they intended for us to do.
Yeah, because they set it up so that the union could evolve, that the nation, the republic, could adapt to the times, right? And so, quite frankly, like. Even if Patrick Henry had said it, who cares? Who the fuck cares? It was a different time with different people. Who the fuck cares? That's my reaction. I know, like, of course, there have to be things that we do care about. And it is nice when you do get a really good, like, I don't know, Thomas Jefferson quote about something. But, like, it's still just like, who cares at the end of the day?
Yeah. They're not in charge anymore.
They're not in charge anymore. They're not here.
But the hero worship
that
the right does of these people, which is so funny because their big problem is these guys do not, like, the founding fathers of this country do not agree with their position.
Right.
Like, there is no point every time you see an actual quote from the founding fathers, there's not a single one of them that says this country is founded only on Christian principles and only Christian shit. Like,
right. No, yeah, of
it's
course
just not there.
Right. Because I mean it wasn't the intent. And anyway.
All right. Well, we have some folks to thank, do we not?
We do indeed, Dan. We have a new patron on Patreon. By the name a new teacher, in fact, by the name of Gagia.
Woo!
Or Jagia. I'm not sure entirely.
Or Chia.
But thank you very much, Gigia, maybe? We're so thankful for your support of the show. Appreciate it dearly.
Yes.
And if you would like to join Gigia in supporting the show, we welcome the support. You can go to our website, thankgodimatheist.com, and click on the support tab.
You'll get the Frank and Dan diary. There's all this other extra bonus stuff there for you, and you get the magic powers from us bestowed upon you, and that warm feeling of knowing that you are helping the world become a better place by giving us your money.
Yeah,
that's priceless right there. So dive in on that.
Yeah.
We really appreciate all of our patrons so much.
Absolutely. And as always, Dan, we have our top donor to thank, our Lord and Savior, Davis.
More show coming up. Well, Frank.
Dan, yes.
Last week we talked about our terrifying new Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson.
Oh yeah, he's
the fact that you can't exaggerate enough how bad he is,
right,
because he's a literal Nazi.
Yeah,
just a different brand of Nazism, but Nazism nonetheless. We learned this week, he's a good Christian man.
So good. Dan, I mean, really, like, you say he's a Nazi. It's a kinder, gentler Nazism, isn't it? It's
yeah. I'm not going to comment on that.
Yeah.
What I am going to comment on is the fact that he and his son, we have found out, have a compact. They have an agreement.
Oh, this is brutal.
They spy on each other's porn use, which I think is, there's no better way for a father and son to bond.
Oh,
they subscribe to a service called Covenant Eyes.
Oh, it's so gross.
Where
I'm fighting back the vomit right now, Dan.
Where literally this is meant to keep you from temptation.
Oh yeah.
From doing the awful thing of looking at pornography on the interwebs.
It's on all of your devices, right? Like, it's on your phone, it's on your computer, it's on your iPad, it's on,
right.
Like, it's everywhere. You cannot escape the
and if you do look at a racy picture, the other person, the person that you sort of dubbed to be your accountability partner, I think that's the actual term, then gets notified.
Oh God.
So, okay. First, you know what? I'll throw out my first concern and then we'll just move on from that, which is love hearing that the Speaker of the fucking House has installed software on all of his devices from a third party tracking his, everything that he's doing. That feels totally secure and safe. I feel great about that.
It's probably not Covenant Eyes. It's probably Russian Eyes.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
We call it Covenant Eyes. It's very good. It's safe. Don't worry. Fucking ignoring all of that shit.
Right.
How gross.
I was really kind of just speechless when I heard the whole thing, because it's like,
do you know how many
he has
just did?
A few, yeah. His 17-year-old son, right?
Yeah, this is not a 37-year-old son. This is a kid.
And he's watching him, and Mike Johnson's watching over his son's porn habit, and vice versa and everything. But there's also a little bit more tracking than just porn. It's not just about porn. The article goes into all of the other things that it might alert your partner about, such as there was a woman or a young woman who was caught searching for atheist stuff.
Yeah.
And then was berated by her parents and preacher and whatnot. And so it's just it's trying to keep you into this small little space that is approved by Christians.
Yeah.
And
also
where you're not sort of wandering too far from the safe space of your little corner of the internet, right? And it's
also,
like,
can I just say,
it's gross.
Parents, don't, even if you are worried about porn, which don't be that worried about porn, kids are going to see it. It's going to be okay.
Yeah.
But if you're worried about it, don't use this kind of a thing. Because let me tell you something, your kids are smarter than you.
Yeah.
They will get around it.
Yeah.
And we learned about getting around it when the Josh Duggar thing came out.
Yeah.
Because he had covenant eyes on all of his stuff, and he set up a big, some sort of partition.
Yeah.
So that the program didn't know what he was doing.
Right.
And he was sharing like pictures of children.
Yeah.
Like, so
Yeah.
he was being extra gross, but
Yeah.
the point is it's totally doable.
Right. Just because you are older and confused by your technology.
It doesn't mean that they are.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh man. Here's the thing that drives me crazy about this is that, there are problems with porn. Porn can be, it can be problematic for individuals.
Yeah.
It's a problematic industry that needs to be regulated.
Sure. Yeah.
But because it's so hush hush and so dirty, and we don't look at that and blah, 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 nobody's actually looking into how to regulate it well so that it's, it's not all consenting adults doing, who are non-trafficked people participating.
Right.
Which plenty of them do. Plenty of porn is perfectly fine. And, there are happy people participating, getting paid to do work that they enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's completely non-problematic. And if we were just careful and not if we weren't so terrified of the subject of pornography, we could regulate it so that that's all you'd get is good consensual porn. And the other thing about it is that because it's so awful and terrible to these people, to these Christians and religious people, that's who has a problem with it. I'm not saying that's who is against it. I'm saying when you look at porn addiction as a concept, which a lot of people don't think is actually real, it's the religious people who have compulsive issues with porn use because the shame is the problem.
Right.
The porn, the looking at porn is not the problematic part of it. It is the shame that is the problematic part of it. So, entering into a covenant eyes agreement with your teenager
yeah,
only reinforces the very thing that makes it bad, which is the shame.
Right.
And there's good science on that. I don't claim to be fully well versed in it, but I have read up on some of the science, and that's clear. People who don't have religious shame surrounding sex don't have porn problems in general.
Oh, that's interesting. Huh.
So it's it's gross. Our speaker is doing weird things with his son. That is a weird thing. We shouldn't feel good about that.
Yeah. I'm so just deeply disturbed by the whole thing. I feel like I have a really strong ability to empathize and to put myself in other people's shoes and whatnot. Right. I feel like I can do that. Right. And in a way of well, how do they see the world? Right. Sure. I cannot wrap my head around this one. I can't be yeah, okay. In their position, that would make sense. There's nothing about this. It is just so it feels so fundamentally wrong to me. But
explain to me what feels so wrong to you. I mean, like we've talked about some of the issues.
Well, I think that a parent who probably doesn't talk openly about sex and sexuality and whatnot to their child,
except to decry it, bad.
Exactly. But then is like, oh yeah, but you can, like, here's this thing because, like, I don't want to be looking at porn. It suggests what it suggests to the kid is that well, dad clearly has some sort of porn problem.
Yeah.
Right. And it opens up this, like, this perception about the parent by the child that just seems so weird. Right. It's just, and it seems like, it's like, like you want so in one way he's like, hey, like, I'm a person too. And I can, you know, from their perspective, have problems, right, that I'm dealing with. And so he probably, like, maybe sees that as like a positive, but considering the culture and the weirdness about sex that exists around this child, it's like, I cannot figure out what his perspective could possibly be like after your parent is like, here, check up on my porn problem, right?
I think it's probably the opposite. I think it was probably approached as, son, I don't want you to be looking at porn. But I want to check up on you, but let's make it fair and you can check up on me too. And we'll be buddies in this fight together, sort of thing.
Yeah. Still gross. Right.
It's still super gross.
Like,
there's no reason why it would ever be okay. But yeah, I'm guessing that's what we're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. I can see that, but like I think from the kids, I don't know, like a team.
Well, yeah,
if my dad had come to me and been like, yeah, you'll be able to see, you know, if I ever look at porn, it's like, what the fuck are you talking about?
No thanks, Dad.
Yeah.
Very no thanks.
Yeah.
Very much not at all. So, well, I'm leaving the family now because, and I think I'm moving to a different country. And now I know that now you've put the image in my mind of you looking at porn, and I don't think I'll be okay ever.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's where my head is. Like I'm just like, whoa.
Yeah. Well, we've got Frank doing cartoon noises now, so I think we should probably call it. Oh Lord, if you would like to let us know your feelings on this topic, please write into us, podcast@thankgodimatheist.com.
Or call and leave us a voicemail message. We'd love to hear from you.
Make your own cartoon noises.
The telephone number is 424-666-8442.
Yeah, go to the Facebook page, facebook.com/TGIAtheist, and click the like button.
And if you'd like to join one of our members-only lounges, you can do so by going to our website, thankgodimatheist.com/members-only.
Yeah. Thanks so much to the Red Rock Hot Club for the use of their music.
And thanks to Gordon Johnston for the use of his music.
And thanks to all y'all for tuning in. We sure do appreciate you.
Thanks so much. Bye-bye.